welcome to tea time on C is for Crone, and we are in the dungeon with Bastion behind me and Otis. We haven't had Otis for a long time in a video. Life changed with the not going to dialysis, husband passing and not going to dialysis all the time. Otis doesn't seem to be as much of a presence, which is sad because he was such a great craft buddy, traveling craft buddy. He went everywhere. So I think I need to get back into that. But today in the can is that PC sparkling root beer stuff from No Frills here in where I live. So thank you for joining me here on Tea Time. And as always, anything that I write is mine and cannot be reproduced without any permission. Now, I don't know where I left off in the previous video, Tea Time video, with the story based on the writing prompt for January's writing things on my bucket list, my 21 for 21. Then I do try and do 21 things in a month, every month for 2021. The writing prompt was, when I turned on the radio that night, I never believed whose voice I was hearing coming through the speakers. Migraines and not feeling well have made it almost impossible to concentrate enough to write. But I am not getting the 50,000 words down this month, but it's nice to have goals and challenges. And as I said in the last video, and I think this is why I know where I left off in the previous Tea Time video, sorry, dry eyes and heat vents, and this house is very, very dusty. Caused me problems. So anyways, using that prompt, I said I thought I might try some poetry, and I actually did write a few more times and did get some poetry done. So I have been writing, so that's kind of cool. I just gotta get off Facebook. Facebook is the other problem, because I end up zoning out on there, and then I'm commenting, and then I'm writing in there. It's not that I'm not writing, but and thank heavens it's useful to some people, some of the comments they make, but at the same time it's not being the same sort of creativity as just sitting and writing. It's very thoughtful what I write, but it's not very creative, and so it doesn't serve the same purpose. But it is writing, and it is taking up that writing space I could be putting somewhere. So definitely got to put down the phone, except to do videos. So anyways, with that writing prompt, I wrote the following two poems. Yes, following two poems. My loneliness runs deeper than the swift morning river on the desert surface, as it's chased by the sun and its need to starve us, taking from us the wet of our humanity in its greedy grasp. Hello. We have the Crone cat joining us here down in the dungeon. That's amazing. And so that's what one of the poetic ideas I got from that writing prompt. The second poem that I wrote was, sit quietly, don't you hear it? Ah, there it is again. That sound, that voice, that moment never to be had again, giving me a tingle down my spine. Sit quietly, don't you hear it? I can't be the only one. Am I the only one? So again, two different kind of slightly different poems. Free verses, like no rules. Well, it does have rules, but sort of that freedom to just sort of write thoughts on paper. So got two slightly different ideated poems from one writing prompt. So if you are having definite writer's issues, hello, Mr. Bastion. Got Simon there, Bastion going that way, and there's Cleo, Missy Chrome Kitties. There, as we're getting dry. As you can see, migraine is causing major distraction. Maybe it'll fall. So, I would suggest, yes, I got that writing prompt on Pinterest. There was a ton of interesting ones and a ton of different kinds depending on your writing style. To go there and help it. What are you scratching? You're not supposed to be scratching. Clean out the intellectual pipes, the creative pipes, and just kind of take it and let the words flow. Okay, so back to our story. I wrote, I continued, about my nameless character, and where he had, last was doing dishes, and to continue it. If I had never been on Facebook, I would still have peace in my life. The first thing I saw was an old memory that triggered things I had thought long forgotten. Somewhere in my upset, Fuzzer made his way into my lap, and I was stroking his fur. His perception for my pain, and then to quietly comfort it, always amazed me. In this moment, however, I was very glad he had joined my life. Oh, how memories influence our lives. I had thought I would never remember her. God, she'd been so awful. Loved her mind games, she did. But seeing her smiling face on the screen of my phone was disturbing. It made me happy to note that I had dissolved her from my life. It made me happy to note that I had dissolved her from my life. Looking down at Fuzzer, I made a vow to him that today was going to be a non-phone day. Then I thought, well, maybe the exception to my mother. I think that would be the exception to be my mother. I hadn't called to my mother I hadn't called in almost a month. She'd left plenty of messages. She loved to talk, so I sorry. Okay. Looking down at Fuzzer, I made a vow to him that today was going to be a non-phone day. Then I thought, well, maybe the exception would to be my mother. I hadn't called in almost a month. She'd left plenty of messages. She loved to talk, so I got frequent voicemail and text. I was extremely glad I had 4 sisters, all married, who could keep her quite busy. But she always found time to fill up my cell phone. Although she had been a perfect mother to my sisters, she understood girls. She knew nothing about boys. She never could connect with me as... I don't even know what I wrote. We never could connect, as we had nothing in common. This got worse after my dad left. After that, and with 4 sisters, I managed to duck my head and lay low. I spent a lot of time at my friends' houses, as it was better than being at home. Stretching caused Fuzzer to leave my lap and find something else to do. Comfort time was over. Oh well, that meant the stroll down memory lane could be as well. I decided that focusing on the mundane tasks that needed my attention was a better use of my time. Memories swiftly buried themselves back into the farthest corners of my mind, where they could just get lost again. The sound of water filling the sink, so I could wash my dishes, eased the tension in my shoulders. Something about doing this by hand had always been satisfying and soothing. I had a dishwasher, and I used it on occasion. Having my sisters and their families over for dinner on occasion left me with quite the mess. Admittedly, it was a wonderful thing to have to free up my time to spend with them, especially Lucy and her husband Jake. They had 3 boys and a girl. When they visited, there was always lots of noise, dishes, and good times. Lucy was the youngest of the 5 of us, born 2 years after me, and after our dad left. She seemed to understand me best. She never mothered me like my other sisters. God, they were so like Mom. It made me happy that Lucy preferred to just be friends and my little sister. She was always up for a little big brotherly advice when she needed it. Come to think of it, I should stock up again. Her monthly visit was tomorrow, and I definitely would hear it from the boys if I didn't barbecue something. The thought of steak was now teasing me. I laughed out loud at that, and Fuzzer jumped up on the counter by the sink to see what was so funny. I winked at him and flicked some bubbles on his toes. He looked at me in disgust. Water was for drinking and having a shower, but really, bubbles on his toes? He flicked both his feet at me, sniffed, and jumped back on the floor. As he shuffled back to whatever toy he had last been playing with, I laughed some more. He definitely was the best thing in my life, besides my sister and her family. So this is very rough, and as I said in the first video, the reason it's rough is because I'm just writing. And that's the whole point of the prompt, was not to create anything polished and finished. It was just to create something, just write. Just get back into the swing of writing. So, I have another poem here. Come here. Gotta love trying to turn pages. Hands are chilly and don't want to work. Yay, arthritis. Oh, but I do love paper. I do love my paper. Why now? That boy. Okay, sorry. Why now? Yeah, you should look at it. Look at it. There's things crossed out, and so yes, reading aloud becomes an issue. Why now? His voice, that voice that tormented me, gliding through the speakers on my stereo like a knife over a plate. A betrayal, a betrayal, a betrayal. How could he, how could she, especially the her that hurts so much? My ghost that left me so long ago, gone, but seemingly not forgotten. Things, thoughts, memories. I'm really kind of enjoying the poetry end of things. So possibly the writing prompts for February will be more along a poetic line, because that's my wheelhouse, to borrow a baseball term. Second one. A shiver ran down my spine. The room went silent, empty as a tomb. That voice now trapped in my head. That voice carried upon the stillness. I wish I could run. The memories would only chase me forever. Chase me through the darkness in this tomb. That voice that only tortured me when I remember would now never leave me alone. Back to the story. One would think dinner with my sister and her family would be normal like always. I should know better than that. It started out okay. The boys played with Fuzzer like always. My apartment smelled great as always. The smell of barbecue liked to drift in from the balcony. There was always lots of food to eat. However, the look on my brother-in-law's face should have warned me something was up. Something I would rather not hear. I really should have paid closer attention to that. Although my sister was doing a great job of masking the thoughts upon her face, this time it was obvious that something wasn't right. But as always, I let myself be distracted by my nephews. Dinner did go well. We didn't eat in silence. Well, not until one of the boys leaked the news that their grandpa had phoned to say that he wanted them all to be a part of his upcoming wedding. My sister exclaimed to her son that now was not the time, as I choked on my drink. Recovering myself, I said it was okay and to continue with the exciting news. My sister and her husband turned to me with questioning looks on their faces. It was my niece who noticed that I had drifted to another place. She was always more perceptive than her brothers. After supper, she and my sister tidied up while the boys took the garbage outside to the bin and Fuzzer for a walk. Jake joined me out on my balcony and apologized for his son being so abrupt. Everyone had been asked to not say anything until Lucy had told me all about it. I deserved to know this without it being blurted out at the dinner table. I still felt lost in a fog. Jake said that Gordon, my dad, had left a message on Lucy's phone. One of the boys had heard it while she was listening and thought she was alone. Jake apologized again. It felt awkward now, which was odd as things were never awkward with Jake. Once he had married Lucy, we had become best friends. Unlike my other sisters' husbands, Jake and I had a lot in common and had shared a similar view. He too had several sisters, although he was the oldest of the 6 of them. And that's all I've got written down. I would say I have pretty close to 2,000 words. So that's a far cry from the 50,000. Maybe a little bit later, I will sit and I will write some more poetry. Maybe finish the story up a little bit more and kind of finish it off and try and get that video done in the next couple of days. So thank you for joining me here on Tea Time and listening to my writer's ramblings and hanging out with the Crone Cat and the Sage Cat. I notice the traveling craft pig. Thank you from all of us. Until next time.